Taoiseach, Carlow County Council has applied for 12 million for the conservation work on a former presentation convent building at Tullow Street, Carlow, which is a huge part of our culture quarter. This is a dynamic design to the rear of the existing library building, which is too small now and inadequate for the expanding services now that the university status has been awarded to Carlow. This new build will have an enhanced local study section, which is so important for school children and students, and an impressive county archives area, a children's library, new tourist office, a large light-filled civic space in the centre of the building itself. Taoiseach, this building is extremely important for the people of Carlow, and I would ask that the funding would come for this. I know it has gone, it's on the stage 3 of it now, I believe, at the stage 3 planning, so I would ask that you would talk to your Minister and see what you can do, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy, for your contributions. Just at the outset, I want to say that the reports of the attack in Ashtown near the Talca River are very disturbing. And while I can't comment on the specifics of the case, I do condemn unreservedly any incident or threat of violence against vulnerable people in our society, particularly those from a migrant background. People have the right to protest, but they don't have the right to do it in a way that causes others to fear for their safety or in ways that threaten public order. I have sought a report from the Gardaí on this, and I've received the report, haven't had a chance to read it yet. But they are continuing to investigate the incident, and I'm sure deputies will appreciate that I can't comment further on an open investigation. While the number of people rough sleeping is down to around 91 people in the Dublin region now, the upward trend of people accessing emergency accommodation in recent months is of serious concern to government. We have introduced a no-fault eviction ban, a new acquisitions programme for vulnerable households, emergency leasing of extra units, increased HAP discretion rates, and we're implementing the largest social housing programme in the history of the state. We don't have the numbers in yet, but we think that the number of new social homes provided last year will be the highest since 1975. And I know in the case of the men who were victims of this attack, that they have been offered shelter, and one is in hospital and others are in contact with services. They were offered shelter before, but for their own reasons they want to be able to stay together, and that has complicated factors a bit. A couple of deputies mentioned the community welfare service, and I hear what deputies are saying in terms of the difficulties that their constituents are having in accessing the community welfare officers. So I'll certainly raise that with Minister Humphreys in the coming days. In relation to the referendum on gender equality and on the family, I'd anticipate bringing the proposed wording, and I welcome the fact that there are options, but we hope to bring the proposed wording to Cabinet before the end of this quarter. The Electoral Commission will be established next week, and I think I'm correct in saying the Electoral Commission is now the Referendum Commission, so we don't have to go through that complicated process of establishing a Referendum Commission every time we have a referendum. I can't promise that we'll have the referendums this year, but I certainly would like to have them done this year, and we'll have a better idea on that in the next few weeks. Just on the homicide reviews, I'm going to check with Minister Harris about the timeline on that. In relation to domestic, sexual and gender-based violence in general, we've launched a new strategy to combat that form of violence. It's a 5-year programme of reform aimed at achieving a society that doesn't accept DSGBV or attitudes which underpin it. The strategy and the accompanying implementation plan contains over 140 detailed actions for implementation. There'll be strong political oversight of implementation through the Cabinet Committee on Social Affairs and Public Services, which I chair. And education and awareness raising are also a big part of the government's fight against this form of violence, and we're working on national campaigns to raise awareness, including on the meaning of consent. Some of the main actions include doubling the number of refuge spaces available in Ireland, and I note Deputy Smith's advocacy in relation to Cavan in particular when it comes to providing refuge spaces there. Also, national sexual violence and national domestic violence prevalence studies, which will be conducted at 5-year intervals. New legislation to provide for the introduction of a specific offence of non-fatal strangulation and a specific offence of stalking. The training of frontline workers to identify domestic violence and refer victims and survivors to the appropriate services. Improving prosecutions of breaches of any and all DSGBV civil orders provided for in domestic violence and family law legislation. The government is also continuing to drive forward with the implementation of supporting a victim's journey. And we're determined that when victims of crime come forward, they'll be safe in the knowledge that they will be helped, informed and treated with respect and dignity at every stage of their journey through the justice system. We've also focused on strengthening legislation, including the Criminal Justice Miscellaneous Provisions Bill. This wide-ranging bill will increase the maximum sentence for assault causing harm from 5 years to 10. In relation to the geographical provision of refuge spaces, we acknowledge the need for a significant increase in the provision of spaces, and we're committed to achieving this so that every person who needs a refuge space will have access to one. The initial phase of work, we expect to have provided 24 more spaces in Wexford, Dundalk and Navan by next year. And then there'll be a further 98 units in identified locations in 2025, along with a further 19 additional and upgraded units by the end of the strategy period. There are also plans for 32 safe home units to have them operational presently, with plans to expand the numbers to 55 before the end of 2023.
Thank you, Taoiseach. I think we now need to move to question 18. You're taking 18 to 23 together, I think.
That's right. Count Coyle, I propose to take questions 18 to 23 together. Our vision is to make Ireland the best country in Europe to be a child. The role of the Department of the Taoiseach is to pull things together and to coordinate government action so that it is targeted. Poverty restricts a child's opportunity, and the new unit will build on what's been achieved by government and give a greater focus on improving the lives of all children in Ireland. The aim is to have the unit established by the end of March, and preparatory work is underway. As a first step, Minister O'Gorman and I met with representatives from the Children's Rights Alliance to discuss the development of the new Child Poverty and Wellbeing Unit. Further work and engagement is ongoing to inform the scope and programme of work for the unit. The aim is to ensure that the unit brings coordination as well as strategic leadership and enhanced accountability to the child poverty agenda and makes a tangible difference in the lives of children and families.
Deputy Alan Farrell.
Thank you very much, Taoiseach. My question was in order to elicit further information